sky, something's looking down on me. Everything I know is gonna erase my mind and send me home. I can't keep up, I wanna play
G'day, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Encounters Down Under. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for wherever you're listening to. If you're new to the channel there, thanks for coming in and listening there. And, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button and share it out with your friends and family. Also, don't forget, if you have had an encounter of some sort of phenomena of yowies or ghosts, paranormals, or UFO or aliens, something in that sort of topic, please come and chat with me. Hit me up on either Facebook there on Messenger, or you can email me at encountersdownunder@outlook.com.au, and I'd love to get you on here and have a chin wag there and talk about your encounter or your experiences. Look, we've got an awesome show tonight, wherever you're listening from. I've got Harry here, who is got a big history of things that's happened in his life, and has a bit of a rundown there for you. So we've got Harrison Viers Newberry is an author, spiritual researcher, and public speaker known for his work on human consciousness, spiritual awakening, and extraterrestrial phenomena. After overcoming deep personal tragedy and alcoholism in his life, he rebuilt his career and dedicated his time to researching enlightenment and the spiritual evolution of humanity. He is also the authors of And the Angels Call Him Shining Bear and The Imminent Shift. And I think he's got a new one out there too, which I think I've lost that one. But we'll get him on here anyway. We'll have a talk. Let's get this button right. Go on, get it going. There he is. Harry, how you going, mate?
Hi, great. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. Welcome to the United States, and hello to everyone down under.
That's right. Yeah. So obviously Harry is over in the United States there at Atlanta. Which is absolutely fantastic over being over the other side of the world there at this time. But I hope I got that covered right there, mate. That was pretty right through your life. That's quite a broad life of what you've done so far. Like, you overcome alcoholism, which is very, it's very difficult to do. I've got some friends that have, done that, and they've achieved their way, gone through it. Or I got some friends that, they're very well and into the alcoholism side of things. I don't want to go and state that too much, but it's a very hard thing to overcome. And then you've done well to go and do that. And then you've it's brought you into some sort of enlightenment throughout your life there. Or let's run through where it all started for you there, and what made you come over all these obstacles, throughout your life there. Where did it all start for you?
Well, when I was a young man, I grew up in a good family, went to college, married my college sweetheart. We started a life, and I came from a very close-knit family, and my career started blossoming, and all of a sudden, I lost both my mom and my dad 8 months apart. And before I was over that, my first wife passed. She was diagnosed with cancer, and she was 29 years old, and I was 31 at the time. And about the time we found out she wasn't going to make it, my only brother dropped dead of a heart attack. 6
Holy.
months later, my wife died in my arms, and I wasn't equipped to deal with all that. I didn't know how to deal with it. For the first time in my life, I was alone, and I turned to the bottle and started drinking, and it just about destroyed me. It took me 2 years before I finally realized it had me, that I didn't have it, and I sought help. And this was now over 40 years ago. And I began a spiritual path, looking within myself instead of looking outward. I, like a lot of people, I had thought happiness was in material possessions, earning a lot of money, and that sort of thing. And I soon realized that none of that mattered at all when it came to my happiness, other than having the essentials that we all need in life. And so I started in a direction of looking deep within myself, identifying my own character flaws and weaknesses and my fears. I didn't think I really had any fears, and I soon realized that fear had motivated me for most of my life. I just didn't recognize it. And I think there's a lot of people that are in the same boat. The entire human race has been controlled with fear instead of love. I ended up going to South America. I was drawn like a magnet to go to Peru. And people thought I was crazy, but I followed my own heart and ended up going alone. And one thing led to another, and I met a man down there who had published several books, and he had trained as a master shaman. He was a PhD in psychology and medical anthropology, and he ended up training me. And this was under the lineage of a group of people called the Q'ero. They were of the Inca, what we call the Inca. They were the Quechua people, but the Q'ero were the spiritual leaders. And in 1532, they had foreseen the coming of the Spanish conquistadors, knew there was nothing they could do to stop it. So they went up to one of their holy mountains and lived for almost 500 years at altitudes of about 16,000 feet. And they came off the mountain as prophecy had suggested they would. No one knew they were there. They'd never seen a telephone, a car. They'd never even seen a globe of the world. But yet they would point, places like the Middle East is a problem spot. Their intuition was beyond intuition. It was incredible. And looking into their eyes, you'd give $1 million for what you would see in their eyes, just pure love. And I was blessed to be able to spend a lot of time with them and get their prophecies. And one of the things they shared with me was the coming of the shift in consciousness for the human race. And they said that it would all begin in the United States, and that we would become a people of the heart instead of the head. And that's what I see happening. Around 1990, a French researcher named Dr. Amour discovered that we have some 40,000 sensory neurons in our heart. These are brain cells. And additional research showed that these cells in the heart are 100 times more powerful than the ones we have in our head. Further research revealed there was a way to bond the cells in our head with those in our heart. And I know you didn't recall the book. One of the two final books that I wrote, one is called Rise of Human Perception. And I wrote the techniques and methodology in there for marrying the heart with the head. And what's important about that is that we've been controlled for the past over 12,000 years. We've been brainwashed, mind controlled, and into false ideas and beliefs. All of this is in our head, and our heart is our link to our higher consciousness and to universal consciousness and to universal knowledge and wisdom. I mean, someone said, an English guy said, if you could effectively marry the heart and the brain together, the person that can accomplish this could make the neighborhood genius look like the village idiot. In any event, you have access to all knowledge if you can do this. I've done this, and I have had a lot of additional knowledge flow into me. There's no ifs, ands, buts about that because I was never that smart, or at least I never thought I was, and still don't for that matter. But I feel more connected to universal consciousness and the concept that we are all of one consciousness. And our science has proven this. In 1987, an experiment was done under the auspices of the United States Air Force, where they proved that we exist in a quantum field, or we call it more commonly a matrix. And that this field is three things. It's a container for all things in the universe, all material in the physical universe, everything. Secondly, it's a bridge between our inner world and our outer world. And thirdly, and my favorite, is that it is a mirror between what we truly believe and what we manifest in reality around us. Now, one person may not manifest, make a big difference, except in their own immediate reality. But collectively, if you could get people to believe false beliefs and ideas, collectively, we have manifested the reality that we all exist in on this planet, the chaos, the wars, the violence, the hatred, all of that has come from us. And that's a hard thing to swallow. But the good news is, by obtaining the knowledge, we can do something about it. And we have the power, because the big thing they manipulated us into believing is that we are limited, that we don't have the power to do anything. What can I do about it? It's always that kind of a thought process. But the only thing that limits us is our own mind. It's all in our own head because of the false beliefs that we've all bought into. I know my parents would have never lied to me. They love me. I know they would have never lied to me. I don't even think my teachers where I grew up would have lied. But who told them? Where did they get their information? From their parents, and their parents before that, and so forth and so on. This goes back generations, and we've been controlled. And yet we can evolve in consciousness. And to do so, we have to raise our vibrational frequency and increase our bandwidth of perception. So I'll stop right there. If you have questions or anyone has questions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Like as you were saying before, it's one of the questions I've asked a lot too when I speak to people like yourself who talk about, opening our minds and getting the right vibrational frequencies and such like that. And, the question I've always asked is like, the public's not the problem. It's like, how are we going to make the governments, the powers to be, realize that this is what needs to happen? Because they've got their own methods and their own ambitions that, they don't care about this sort of thing. Like, so, because that's that's our leaders. That's where we sort of rely on a lot. How do we go and push them to go on, become like this in this meditative or spiritual sort of nature?
Well, Andrew, I got a lot of information from a group of beings that are here in a task force called the Degatans from 2 planets around the star Tegeta, Era and Timur, in the Pleiades star system. And they came here in force in 2008 because the cabal was planning a mass culling of the human population. And they stopped that, but it's not off completely. But they're here to free human minds and raise consciousness to help us. They can't do it for us, but they're here to help us do it for ourselves. Now, it kind of in contrast to what you're saying is I've always gone after the government, the presidents, the congressmen, the senators, and all that, but they say that these people are just puppets to begin with, that they really have no real power to fix the true problems that humanity faces, that it's in every human heart. Every little guy out there feeling like trash could make a difference.
Yeah.
Just by learning to say the word, a little 2-letter word called N-O. Buying into the media, they've got a captive audience 24/7. I mean, people go to work, they're tired, they come home, what do? We watch TV and receive programming, more and more and more and more false programming, fear-based beliefs and ideas that keeps us in a perpetual state of fear. And you can't rise in frequency and vibration in fear. They're polar opposites. Fear is a dark, dense energy. But the higher you go, it's on a curve. Frequencies go from a low frequency to a very high frequency. The rest of the universe is in the 5th, what we call the 5th density. They just say it's a higher frequency. It's on a continuous curve. But we have been in the 3rd density of consciousness. We're now on the border of 4th density. They're turning the knob up a little bit. The magnetics of Earth have shifted, but we have to rise in vibrational frequency. We each have a frequency of vibration that is as unique to us as our own fingerprints. We all have.
Yeah. Okay. So, for someone starting out, like who wants to try and uprise their frequency and sort of try and evolve themselves, there, what's a good way to go and sort of start off there? What would you suggest?
Well, it's all as they said. It's the answers and the solutions they have, and they're passing them on to us. All the solutions have a metaphysical basis. We have to begin by going within. We've lived our lives looking at the outside world. There's 2 worlds. There's the material or physical world that we look out at, and there's the inner world, the spiritual world. We've got to start looking within. I was in a conversation just recently. What motivates us? The question was what motivates me, what has in the past anyway. I made a lot of choices in my early life. It did a lot of things, not necessarily because it was something that I myself desired, but because it was to please others. Or I chose not to do things because they're gonna poke fun at me. They're gonna laugh at me. They're not gonna approve of me. so much of what we've all done in our lives, it starts with the parents, then with the teachers. Even in high school is a terrible time. You're trying to raise girls and all that. Politicians, your boss, and television. Here it's Hollywood. And we're basically, the Tibetans say that we're not adults, that we have to be told what to do, what to think, right from wrong. We don't think for ourselves. And that's because we're always looking outward, not inward. And when I started on this path, I said earlier that I had to identify my own inner fears. You can't do very much about a problem or a character flaw unless you first find out what it is. And I realized that fear was motivating me in so many ways. It was a little embarrassing at first, but I soon realized I wasn't alone in that. It's human nature. We've all been motivated by fear. But once I started identifying those fears, I began choosing love versus fear and avoiding fear and fear emotions like the plague. We each have an aura around us, right? And if you put your hand straight out like this and turn your palm facing you, that's about approximately where your aura begins and ends. Everything that happens outside of that, and this goes not just out in front of you, but it goes 360 degrees down your back,
like a big bubble,
your sides, under your feet. Everything happening outside of that is just Shakespeare for your entertainment. We have to learn to protect our own space. We've heard the expression, stay out of my space. Don't get into my space. Well, that's literally true. And to help yourself to hold out, keep out negative waves or particles of energy, which fear, evil, you could visualize a rose at the end of where your aura begins. Why a rose? Well, I said we each have our own vibration, right? On average, humans vibrate between 62 and 72 megahertz. A rose vibrates at 320 megahertz.
Wow, that's quite a difference.
Higher than anything else in the plant kingdom and higher than any gemstone. A Bohemian rose vibrates at 800. So if you visualize a rose, it's vibrating there, even though you're creating it in your mind, but it's vibrating, and negative waves and particles can't penetrate that so easily. You keep that fear away from you. Don't buy into other people's drama, their plays. We've all done it. It doesn't mean you don't care about some problem, a suffering thing that a person's going through, but you're not helping them nor yourself if you internalize it emotionally and allow it to drag you down. To help people, you have to remain strong yourself. So you were asking me about ways to raise that vibration. Choose love, not fear. I mean, that's an oversimplification, I admit. But we have to rewire our brains. Watch every word you say. I used to use a lot of four-letter words, when I was younger. But I stopped that. Because if you start using negative words, you draw negative to you. There's an old saying, a story of a guy that says, this guy's a pain in my you-know-what. That's what you say about everything. It's a Gives me a pain in my butt. He gets hemorrhoids.
Yeah. I'd
Right?
say it's going to be a bit hard there being, a classic Aussie. It's hard not to use those four-letter words. Everywhere you go, everyone, it's just a
It's
Aussie
no
mindset.
different here. Everybody does, but I'm not responsible for what other people do. I'm only
Yeah.
responsible for what I do. And I was right there with him. I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm not putting anyone down. Everyone is where they are. But if you want to rise, these are the things that you have to begin to do and not listen to others. Don't let others tell you right from wrong. Listen to your heart because that's where the truth is. Andrew, every time in my life that I've ever gone against my heart or my gut instincts, if you will, I've regretted it every single time, without exception. If I ask a question, the answer is always close to the question. What do I mean by that? A lot of times we'll ask a question and then we go off on a tangent,
Mm.
Ask a question and be quiet, be still. And you have those eureka moments. Oh, now I got it. This is what I'm talking about from receiving and being connected to universal knowledge and consciousness. This is how it begins. It comes into you. The answers are right there. There's nothing new. We've rediscovered a lot of technology. We didn't discover it. It was already there. And we have access to that knowledge. But we have to start looking within ourselves to rise and to increase. The other thing is, it's not just about rising, it's about increasing our bandwidth of perception. We've been in the 3D. This means we can't see beyond the 3D. Well, now we're seeing in the 4D somewhat. And it's because we're being artificially suppressed. Now, I don't want to really go there tonight, but 12,500 years. I mean, we know we live in a matrix. Science has proven that.
Mm.
But on Earth, we live in a matrix within a matrix that was superimposed on us from the moon, from what the Tibetans call the lunar space station, the moon. A hologram was projected over 3D, actually not 3D, but 5D Earth. Everything outside of Earth and outside of our Van Allen belts is fifth density. Only Earth is artificially controlled and has been into the third density. But Earth, like the rest of the galaxy and the universe, is also 5D. It's just that we've had this 3D matrix superimposed over us. It also, not only did it produce holograms, which are light, but when strong enough, a hologram creates a force field. And that's our Van Allen belts. And they were designed to keep the evil reptilian race in because this was their headquarters 12,500 years ago. And you have to have technology that can handle frequencies to pass through it. And that's in a craft, but as an individual, you have to raise your vibration to go through it too. You have to work on yourself. You have to ascend. I often wondered how the Apollo astronauts handled that. But
I was literally about to ask that. I was, is it like, so I'm guessing your thoughts are on the moon landing and the recent, spaceship around the moon I'm guessing you're against that sort of theory that we never went there.
No, I think we win. I
Found some stuff.
do. I've watched a lot of that stuff, and I can't get my head around that it was a hoax. But
Yep.
I might be wrong.
Yeah, there's lots of different theories. We won't delve too much into it, but there's a lot of theories there with whether it was real or not, and everyone's got different opinions. And we could go in a massive argument of trying to like say it's real or it wasn't real. And just the thing that's just strange to me is like we lost the technology to go back to the moon there 30, 40 odd years ago, after we did like 5 or 6 missions to the moon itself. It's like, well, how do we lose that technology all of a sudden and can't go back again? It just that's the part that didn't make sense to me. Like, it just goes to show that like we're lied to a lot through our governments, and as you say, like we are very indoctrinated in what we are learning throughout our lifetimes. From our parents' sides, the teachers teaching us and stuff like that, and we become very reliant on what we learn. And a lot of people, they become sort of drones in life and don't care about anything else. All they do is, like as you say, we're just told what to do. We're told, we live under fear. We go to work, we have a supervisor, we need to do our job, do it right. Otherwise, we can have the bosses coming down on us, which creates a fear. Make sure we do our right things. And then, of course, we've got, as you say, then the news and the media, they're talking about wars, or we've got diseases and sickness coming throughout the world, and there's an order of control there as such. There's a lot of things in the background, and like, I'm sort of under the thoughts of there is a deep state. There's more than just the presidents and the governments and stuff like that. And I'm hearing a lot of theories that when we go back onto the reptilian theory, there's lots of different sort of breeds of these reptilians that have been here a long time, like the draconians and such like that. The ones I can't think of the ones. Is it draconians, or is it there's another breed of reptilians that are, they're the true bloods of the reptilians. They're who are usually like the the royalties and stuff like that. The shapeshifters and stuff like that. There's a lot of different theories and such like that. But if they're in such control and like how can we break that control? Because like we're just mere humans and we're trying to go up against these massive 8 to 10 foot reptilians who have massive amounts of strength over humans, and then they also have the intelligence there to be able to manipulate us and such like how are we going to overcome that then? Like, that's just like an uphill battle.
Well, it's as the Tibetans have said, we have to awaken and first realize what has been done to us. The only way they have power is that we're serving them. We become their slaves by emanating fear, which is food for them. Yeah. They feed on dark, dense energy. If we choose love, if we raise our frequency, they're done. They're done. Yeah. But you're right about the deep state, the cabal, the 1%ers are really running everything. And that's the sad thing. And they are connected with, I'm convinced, with the reptilians. And I think probably the reptilians mind control them into believing that money is everything, because they can never get enough money. No. These guys have got more money than we could even imagine, and it's never, ever enough. It's like an obsession. It's when I was an alcoholic, I could never drink enough. It's an obsession. It's the same type sickness that, and they're also drunk on power. But, think about it. We're only here for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that they did was they manipulated us and brainwashed and mind controlled us into short lifespans. Even in the Bible, there's stories of people living hundreds of years.
Yeah.
What happened? We're supposed to have modern medicine. And you're, 85, 90 years is about the average lifespan. And These people are living 800, 900 or more years.
That's right. What happened?
Yeah, what happened? We know that the secret space program was real or is real, and that they have had technology to reduce age for over 50 years. In 2017, scientists from our major medical research institutions here, I don't know the names of all of them, but I know Scripps in San Diego was one. They developed a medical technology, whereas you take either 6 pills or 6 injections over a period of 6 months. Now, the guy that reported this is William Tompkins, and he was deeply involved in the clandestine research projects underground. He was the guy that built our first spaceships, Project Solar Warden, in the late 70s. And he was in his 90s, he's 94 years old, and he was given permission to tell the truth, to tell all. And he says, you take these pills, and to use his words, everything gets nicer, almost immediately. And the women are reduced in age to 21 years of age. The men are reduced to 29 years of age. And you stay that way for 2,000 years.
Wow. Back in your prime days.
Imagine if we just started living 400 years, how it would change everything on this planet.
Yeah.
And the technology, I'm convinced, is there. I don't, why would he tell a lie like that? And I've heard it from other sources as well. There's tons of evidence that this is true. And the only people that have access to it, though, are that 1%. The last people that should have access to it.
Yeah. This is the control. So I've got a quick question here. Back to your when we're talking about your own personal space and you're creating your own bubble and imagining the rose at the end of your barrier. Miss Shelley's asking here, is there a, while you're using imagination and you're trying to manipulate your own bubble or whatever, is there a more powerful color than another? That's like, if you're trying to imagine that rose, is there something that will help the vibration up a little bit more, or is it just doesn't matter? Or
I don't think it really matters that much. I learned this from a guy named Jim Self. No one discusses this material and does a better job than Jim Self does. And he's written several books. He's got one called, What Do You Mean the Third, he calls it Dimension. What do you mean the third dimension is going away? And he gets into great detail on all of this. I highly recommend his book or his books. And, he also gave other uses for the rose. Like, let's say you get up tomorrow morning and you're having a pretty good day. And then all of a sudden, sometime during the day, things just took a turn for the worst. We've all had those days. And he says, you go back to that point. Maybe it was when you were standing in the checkout line at the supermarket, the grocery store. And you inform the rose, gather me up, collect me up, and draw all that energy into the rose. And then explode the rose. And it goes away. But we are going through changes right now, Andrew, since 12/21/12. The magnetics of Earth changed, and we moved to the lower fourth density. We are, my second book is called Imminent Shift. It's no longer just imminent. We're in the shift right now. And some of it's pretty uncomfortable because when the magnetics of Earth changed, emotions are magnetic, thoughts are electrical. All these things that we have, that we've collected over the years, it's like when you're a kid in school. Why didn't you get 100 on that test? What's wrong with you? Are you stupid? You're never going to amount to anything. Nobody will ever hire you. Nobody likes you anyway. We've all got some of those little pearls. You know, you get that and you go, whew, wow, what am I to do with that? Well, we stuff it in our subconscious. And the magnetics is what's been holding all those I'm not okays in our subconscious. And as Jim says, we can't take our baggage with us on this journey as we ascend. We've got to get rid of it. But as the magnetics, as the magnetics of Earth shifted, he calls it the glue that held all that stuff in place. Now the glue's gone and it's floating into our conscious thoughts. You know, people talk about having suddenly a thought just pop into their head of a divorce that they went through 20 years ago out of nowhere, or something bad that happened. And it's upsetting. And then they buy into it emotionally, and it ruins their day, their week, their month. When those things happen, turn to the right, take 3 steps to the right, and say, it's going away now. I know that sounds crazy, but I've done it many times, and it works. It goes away. And you're not caught up into that emotional bond and allow that to ruin your day, your month, or week, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, these are little things, but I learned a long time ago, it's the little things that may sound crazy at first, but you try them and it's like, wow, it works. It really and truly works. We have to broaden our bandwidth of perception and go within, because we do have the power. We just think we don't. And whether you believe you do or don't, or believe you don't, as the saying goes, you're correct. You know, but we do have an enormous amount of power to manifest whatever it is that we want. But what the reptilians did was they installed religions.
Yeah.
And now I'm not anti-religion. Churches do a lot of good. There's no argument there. But the churches I grew up around used fear to control people.
Yeah.
God will get you for that one. You're going to burn in hell for that guy. You know, that's not the God that I know and that I have an intimate relationship with. There's none of that. It's pure love. God is pure love. And the churches emanate fear. They emanate the exact opposite. I believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ, not what the church says. Because the churches, many of them, not all, but many of them, do not follow the teachings of Jesus. Jesus taught love. Love your neighbor as yourself. And that means love yourself. He taught forgiveness. How many people carry resentments around for years? He taught non-judgment. No one can argue those things. But yet, I've seen churches judge people more harshly than any individual. for years. And that's not what Jesus taught. They hijacked his message, and they carefully manicured what they put in the New Testament as far as Christianity. But killing in the name of God, that's got to be the biggest oxymoron in the history of the world.
Oh, absolutely.
But yet, the Roman Catholic Church had at least 100,000 people in southern France murdered, men, women, and children.
Yeah.
A group of people known as the Cathars that were Gnostics. Not because they had done anything, but because they believed we all have a divine spark, and we do. And you can go directly to God. You don't have to go through a priest. And because of that, they killed them.
Yeah. I'm very much against religions myself. Like, it's up to personal opinions. The way I see it is, like, as you're saying, they've manipulated the word of God to their own agendas and controlled the world that way. Like you said, the Roman Catholic churches, they ruled the Middle Ages, and they ruled their power throughout the whole entire world, basically, trying to say that they're the one true God. And I don't believe that. I don't believe there's one true God. There is one universal power in that sense, but I don't call him a God. I think it's just a power of the universe. And trying to say that, God's rule is the right one or whatever. I think it's your own power, basically. Your own person. If you're a good person yourself, as you were saying before, look into yourself, trust yourself, your own thing. Be a good person. If you're, I'm losing myself here. Sorry. Be a good person. You don't have to be an asshole or anything in that nature. There, be a good person, and you'll do fine. But it's when you become greedy and manipulative, and then such like that. That's when things start going bad, and there's no need for that sort of stuff. But if you are a good person, people are going to probably do the right thing by you regardless. And you don't need a religion to go and tell you to do that. I feel like, going on religious side of things, I'm not a fan of them at all. But obviously, some people want a bit of belief, they want a bit of help or something like that to go and get through their life. Or I've also found that if if they've had a very bad life in their younger days, say something like they've killed someone, or they've been in jail, they've been in the underbellies of the world, basically, and they want to escape it, they usually go and run to the churches there to go and try and repent. So.
Well, I believe if there is a God, he hates a hypocrite. And and I see a lot of hypocrisy. But, I admit I haven't been in a church in a long time.
Neither.
It's right here in my heart.
Yeah.
And if you follow your heart, that is where the real moral compass is.
Yeah.
I don't need someone else to tell me what I know in my heart.
That's it.
But, the Tibetans, I said earlier that they said we're not adults. We have to be told what's right and wrong, what to think, how to dress, how to act, how to behave. And they're right. That's very true. But they're here to help us, and they're here in force. And it's not just the Tibetans. There are many races of beings that are here, and a lot of them are humanoid. And one of the things that they informed us of is that whether you've been here, and I know that I'm an old soul, that I've lived many lives, and they said whether you've lived 1,000 incarnations or 100 or whatever, that we are star seeds. That we didn't originate on Earth. In 1859, I believe it was, Charles Darwin's book on the origin of species was published. Yep. Did you evolve from a monkey?
Don't know.
Yeah. Well, they pretty well proven that's not the case. The Tibetans look just like we do. They could walk down the street and we would be able to distinguish them, although there are significant differences internally. But the what they've explained to us is that we are kin. We're related. We all are Lyrian, from Lyrian descent. Lyrian is in the star constellation of Vega star constellation. And this was the origin of the human-looking beings. And there are countless civilizations throughout the Milky Way galaxy, intermixed with a lot of others, from felines to canines to canines to elephant ones, you name it. But they're here, and what they're telling us is that Earth is the key planet in this quadrant. And there were 9 other planets in a mess similar to Earth. But Earth is the problem of negative infiltration. There's one other planet that's also mixed up into this. But Earth is the key planet because of the negative infiltration. And by that, this is when a negative race comes into a peaceful planet, and with the use of lies and mind control, takes over the planet and uses people for their own selfish purposes. Mm. And the reptilians have been here 40 or 50,000 years. Sumerian tablets say 250,000 years. The Tibetans say that's wrong. I don't know, but they were here a long time.
Yeah.
And they started a war in this solar system, a planet called Tiamat, between Mars and Saturn. It was a large planet. It was a water planet. And they went there, set up a dummy base, and started sending out dummy electromagnetic signals, knowing the Federation would come to investigate, and they did. And they were ambushed and attacked, and a horrific war ensued. Bloody, great loss on both sides. And the reptilian technology was wiped out. And they could no longer fight. In the end, they blew up Tiamat, exploded it with zero-point energy weapons and nuclear technology, which they nuked Mars. And they say that's one of the reasons that they're here, because of karma. A lot of them say they carry karma for nuking Mars. But that's when they decided to trap the reptilians on Earth and install the 3D matrix around Earth. But they had intended to come back soon thereafter. But due to many unforeseen circumstances, it's been 12,500 years. But they've always been around. And one of the reasons they say that Earth is a key planet is because it's full of star seeds from all these different races. I mean, you ever think why we have so many races on this planet? We're all human, but we have many races. And they say we're starting. It makes sense. And it rang true in my heart, too. It resonated with me. And that's what I really go by. Not so much my head, but if it resonates in my heart, then I take it pretty much as a fact. And I'll wait to be proven wrong. But if I listen to my head, I'm usually off. But that all must take care of their own. And that this, in another timeline, Earth was also the headquarters for the Federation. And now, under the Giza Plateau in Egypt, they're discovering that there are deep underground military bases there and cities underneath the Giza Plateau. And this is where their headquarters had been in another timeline. But they're here. Their main purpose is to liberate human minds and human souls and help us to ascend. And they're communicating with a vast number of people around Earth right now. And I've received some of that communication myself, so I know it's true.
So in that then, like they've obviously have these massive battles there in the past there. Like how are they doing so well to go and sort of, hide these battles they're having now? Like surely there's a war behind the scenes here, but like how has this not become an open battle that we've become very aware of?
Well, it's coming out, and I've always had an interest in UFOs, long time. But when I started really looking into this and doing a lot of research, I was amazed at what's available. But the average person is busy, you go to work, you've got kids to raise or whatever, and people just come home, sit down, watch network television. They don't take the time to dig. If they're on the computer or their phone, they're playing. They're not digging for truth, for information. But it's there. I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge and truth out there. And you don't have to look very hard to find it. I found it. I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah. How do you decipher between the bullshit and the truth?
Yeah. Oh, how? Well, I'm careful who I listen to, for one thing. And you have to listen to enough of it and get stories from different people to be able to decipher whether you're hearing something that's factual or something that's just made up. And a lot of the information that the Tibetans have shared, when I first encountered this knowledge, I wrote a book. My newest book is called Revelations, the Greatest Secrets in Human History. When I encountered this information, it resonated in my heart. And I couldn't deny that. But everything in my head wanted to reject it. And I spent the next 2 years, Andrew, researching and looking for flaws in what they had said. Now, there's things they said that I can't disprove. I can't prove, but I can't disprove. But a lot of it, I discovered that our science, our physicists have proven what they said, that we're all connected. In 1997, an experiment had been done at the University of Geneva in Switzerland, and the results were announced. And without going into detail on it, it was called the twin photon experiment. And this is when they proved that not only are we connected, but we are all quantumly entangled with one another. And this is today accepted by physicists. There's no argument about it anymore. Because subsequent experiments has proved out the same thing.
Yeah, the world is definitely changing in the sciences anyway, like in that sort of nature. Like, they're becoming a lot more open to the reality that there's a conscious connection between us all in some regard. Not things like, it's not always just a physical sort of science in that regard. There is more to the human mind than what they're sort of letting on. And I think, as you said, like they discovered this a long time ago. But as you're saying, like they need the control, the manipulation to control the population, the masses, for these, I guess you want to call them the reptilians, or for whatever other reasons. So I want to quickly go and touch on the UFO phenomenon a little bit. Have you actually had a UFO encounter yourself? Like, have you seen anything amazing in that sort of nature in the skies, or have you had
I wish I had, Andrew, but I have not. I've had encounters from a standpoint of I felt presences and have received downloads of knowledge, of information, but no, I have never eyewitnessed a UFO.
No, that's all right. That's fair enough. So another one. So I want to go and dive down into your trip down to Peru there. So that's quite a decision to make at the time, and going through your family tragedies, it's absolutely tragic. Like that's something like a lot of people can't really deal with, like mentally, and like as you said, you went to the bottle, to rely on going through your trauma at the time there, but you've gone through that, and then you decide to go down to Peru, to go on, to evolve yourself basically. Like how that sort of journey happen? Like, because surely they're not going to go and just accept someone from the US there to go into their temples and into their people, and were you fluent with the language? Like, how did you achieve that to go and be able to go and accept it into the Keros? Did you say the word called?
Yeah, well, as far as the temples and so forth, uh, I had guides that were connected to the university there in Cusco, Peru, and the Department of Tourism there is a big thing, and these are college educated in tourism, and a guy who I had made contact with was an amateur archaeologist, had made a discovery on Machu Picchu, and it was recorded and shown publicly on the Discovery Channel. And I got in touch with him, and we started talking, and he introduced me to the people. So I didn't just go down there flying by the seat of my pants. I had contacts before I went, but I went alone. And they pretty much, at that time, it was a lot easier to get access to things. I spent an evening in Machu Picchu. You can't do that anymore. Not unless you've got some connections, you can't do that on your own.
So how long were you down there for? Like, how long did this whole process take for you to go on sort of on your journey of evolution, I guess, however you want to call it, enlightenment?
Well, I've said before, I've been on a spiritual journey, a quest, seeking enlightenment, seeking truth for over 40 years. When the deaths occurred, this was in the mid 1980s, and I was able to stop drinking with help, and I never took another drink. And I was a pretty low bottom as far as the drinking. I mean, I calculated everything in terms of, is that a six pack or a case of beer to get from point A to point B type of a guy, But I was sick of it. I didn't like it. It had me. I had to have it. I didn't have a choice, And it was the only way that I could beat back the blues and the suicidal tendencies that I had. I couldn't see any reason to live. I lost everything that had ever mattered to me. My whole family. Everything I had, I lost. I had nothing left. And that's good news and bad news. The good news is you have nothing left to lose. There's a song Janis Joplin did in the late 60s. Another word for freedom is nothing left to lose. And that became my motto there for a while. But I started off by studying the Silva method of mind control and using visualization techniques and imagination to create things. And I learned the power of that, and it whisked me off my feet. And then I don't believe there's any coincidences. And when I ran into Dr. Violdo in Peru, he didn't have to talk me into it. And I just followed right behind him and let him train me. And that took 2 years of training to get where I needed to be. And later I became an instructor for him at his schools. But at some point, we parted company, and I just went off on my own. And that's when I really started doing a lot of heavy research. Because I had had an accident in the gym. And we lived, I think I told you before the show, we lived in Arizona for a good many years, and an accident involving my right foot that resulted in several major surgeries, and eventually I lost the foot. And people have been trying to get me to write for a long time, but I could never sit still long enough, and to write, you got to be very focused, and it's a sedentary process. And suddenly, for a little while, I didn't have very much choice, but it slowed me down enough that I was able to sit down and start writing.
Yeah.
And the first book, Shining Bear, is the story of all of it, how it all came about, the deaths, the loss, the journey, the inward journey. It's the entire story. It's an emotional roller coaster, is what I've been told by the readers that have read it. But the following books had to do with, in one way or the other, the UFO phenomenon.
Yeah.
Imminent Shift is about the shift in consciousness, but it's really two books in one. The second half is on the UFO phenomenon and all the reverse engineering that's taken place here underground in the United States, things that blow people's mind when they read it, because few people know about these things. And then Rise of Human Perception, there's a lot of, well, it goes into the reasons we need to rise, some of which I've spoken about here, and methodologies and techniques to help you to do that. And then Revelations is revelations of the greatest secrets in human history. They explain how we came to be in the state that we are in right now, the status that we have. People can reject it or accept it. I went both ways on it, but in the end, they said most people would reject it, but that didn't matter, that it would resonate with key people and starseeds. And I couldn't deny that it resonated very heavily with me. And all the research that I did to follow up to try to find flaws or things that can't be right, to disprove, I couldn't find them.
Yeah. So just quickly going back on your trip to Peru, Jane's asking, have you met Brian Forrester in Peru?
One time I did, yes. Long time ago.
Do you want to elaborate on that? Like, I'm not really familiar with the name. Is he some sort of
He's a researcher down there, and
right.
He's a very well-known name there.
That's the alien. So Jane's saying that Brian talks about the alien and Paracas skulls. Oh, right. Okay, that's ringing a bell now. I know about that one. The elongated skulls and such like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, there's no. If you go to Peru and you start talking about UFOs, I mean, it's like talking about the guys in the next town, adjacent town over. I've seen them. Oh yeah, it's not a question of if they exist. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how they've had a lot of experiences and encounters down there, and as usual, the Western media has been hiding a lot of it. But yet, they're very open to what's been happening down there. But I think a lot of it is the American manipulation, making sure nothing gets out, which is...
They were coming to the United States, the UFOs, their visitors were showing up here in the 1940s and 50s a lot. There's a lot of stories, fascinating stories. But they turned it into a circus.
Yeah.
And the CIA got involved with it and started painting people who had reported these things as being idiots, crackpots, or finding ways to explain it away. And then they started shooting them down.
Yeah.
And that has continued.
Yeah, the
They
one that
want
technology.
technology.
Yeah. So before we finish up, there another question here is obviously the American government's coming a lot more with the UFO files there. They're having a lot of Congress meetings and such like that. So what's your thoughts on like how we're processing all this at the moment, like with their releases and such? Like, do you think it's in line with what you're sort of research into and like what you're sort of predicting?
Not really. I don't think whatever they release is thus far. It's been a lot of old, grainy photographs.
Hmm.
Those photographs have been around for decades, decades. I don't think they will ever voluntarily release anything that is really, really important. They've got too much to lose. You'll find more truth in Imminent Shift, my book, Imminent Shift, than I think they'll ever release. I hope I'm wrong. I really do, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, is this because like the other day they brought out that new website aliens.gov and it was just a play on aliens coming to the existing but the illegal aliens, but it's basically just the illegal immigrants coming into America, and it's like, wow, it's a great play and like it's a good little joke, but for the UFO community themselves, they've been so reliant on this release of UFO files there and some sort of alien disclosure, that just threw us back in the bloody, back from the start where, the stigma is back to being a joke again. It was absolutely really bad timing on their behalf. I'm always down for a good laugh, but yeah, wrong place, wrong time.
I agree. Well, the people that I am friends with that are in the middle of this discussion have paid very, very little attention to what the government has done thus far, because we consider it pretty much a joke. But I'm glad they're doing it, because there are so many people that are completely in the dark, and people that still think it can't be true, even though they know the government lies to them. They won't believe anything unless the government shows it to them.
That's right. Yeah. Like, so we can sit here and talk all day there and
doing it.
Yeah. Like we can sit here all day there talking about it, trying to like, encourage people to go and look for aliens or, some other form of spiritual enlightenment, to try and, break open this reality that the world is hiding from us. But people don't want to unless they've, come across it, they're interested in. And that's the hardest part, because like as we was talking before, people are too indulged in their jobs and coming home, watching TV, and they're not open to what the rest of the world can give them. They just care about what's on their phones and their own personal lives, when there's more to this world than, that's really being shaded from us, basically. It's horrible. It's a really horrible manipulation of this world.
Well, behind all of it is greed.
Yeah.
It's greed and it's power crazy stuff. They associate it with power, and they lie to each other, various agencies, the intelligence agencies, they keep things from one another. Power. It's all about power and money.
Yeah.
But I don't worry too much about that anymore. I'm more focused on how I can help others to rise in consciousness, because frankly, I think at the end of the day, that's where it's at. It's up to each individual. As the Tibetan said, anyone can use that little 2-letter word, N-O.
Yeah.
And I don't buy into their stuff anymore. I gave that up quite some time ago. And I'm more interested in focusing on how I can improve and rise in consciousness myself and help to manifest a new reality.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are sort of waking up now to the world, like the government's bullshit, basically, because like ever since COVID, you know, that I think that sort of broke the chain a little bit because you know everyone was you know, we were a bit like, oh wow, this could be a lot bit more serious, and you know, but then over time, everyone started understanding like, no, it's not that bad, you know, but we're getting told to go and stay in our homes for such and such amount of times and whatever, and you know, it ended up turning out like you know everyone called the bullshit out on the governments, and that opened up everyone's eyes. Like you know, there is a lot of crap in the governments. What they're trying to do, a lot of control, I should say, from the government side of things to try and keep us contained. And you know, people have now woken up since that time, and I think we're evolving from that now. We're learning, and as you're saying, like you know, over time we are going to become a lot more enlightened. You know, once people start realizing and understanding that there is you know more to just you know being a drone in life and living our daily lives. You know, we're going to go and break free from this chains that keep continuing to manipulate us. And you know, as you said, like use the word no. It's basically.
Well, you know, we could draw the line, and once we do that, there's not a lot more. I'm really counting on it. I'll kind of sum it up with this, if you don't mind. There's a lot of people right now that believe that 2027 is going to be a year of great transformation for humanity. It's going to be the year the ETs, the cosmic visitors, will self-reveal. The Andromedans have said this. Now, I've heard this from several sources. Starting back, I would say 5 years ago, maybe 6, and it just keeps coming. 2027. And there's something about that year that rings to me. And here again, that's what I pay attention to. But I think that if the visitors self-disclose, that may be the only way we'll ever really get the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I think that's where it's got to come to the breaking point there where, you know, they all come down and, you know, they're landing on our front doorsteps and saying, "G'day, how you going?" You know, that's where it needs to happen.
Well, many people have said they've hypnotized. Allison Coe out of Portland, Oregon, has hypnotized countless people. And these people report seeing, well, we know there's thousands of spacecraft in orbit around Earth that we can't see at various altitudes. And they report having all these visions that one morning we're going to awaken and look up, and the sky is going to be full of alien spacecraft as far as the eye can see. I hope
wait today.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. I think it's going to be a bit of a scary moment, I think, because like, you know, even though we've been diving into trying to like expose the truth, you know, and you know, we always talk about it's a very interesting topic to talk about. But I think the reality of it actually happening the day it is, everyone's like, "Oh shit, we were right. Oh crap, what do we do?" You know, it's going to be like, "Oh no."
I thought about it too, and I've had my moments with you, Andrew. Like, oh god, you know.
But like, I think it's gonna be like a question too. Like, is it an invasion or are they here for peace? You know, like because like there's so many. If it was to become like now where we can see all these crafts and such like, it's like, well, to me that's like we're being invaded. And it's like, oh crap, you know, do we run? Do we try and hide? And, you know, but you know, I like to think that there would be a bit of a peaceful sort of way about this, you know, a sort of a softer way of doing it instead of just having all these crafts in the sky and like just freaking everybody out. But it does need to happen in that sort of way for us to really, you know, believe that there is or you know other beings out there, because it's only a small community of the UFO community themselves who believe that there is something out there. You know, we're trying to expose what a lot of us believe, but there are a lot of people who are out there who know that there is stuff out there, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We're going to try and get away from the belief that there is something out there to knowing there is something in there. And that's the only way it's going to happen, by them landing on our front doorsteps, basically.
Have you heard about the new Steven Spielberg movie that's coming out?
Day of Disclosure? Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
You know, we know that the CIA has used Hollywood many times
Mm.
to disclose information. They've admitted to it. I don't believe in coincidences. And the 2027 prophecies that are being, it's floated around throughout this country a lot that something is going to happen next year.
Mm.
The timing, if I know about it, then I figure the government knows exactly what's coming down, or they've got a darn good idea. And the timing on the release of this movie is just too coincidental for me.
Yep. I think everyone's picked up on that too. Like, you know, and I think Spielberg, he's got some sort of connections there. Like, he knows something.
Yeah,
Because like going off his movies in the past, there, like he definitely knows something.
yeah,
So it's gonna be interesting when this movie comes out and what the future holds. Because like, I've heard stories there where, you know, as you said, 2027 is going to be their year, but I've also heard like it's up to 2029 or 2030. You know, where we're going to have something major is going to happen. At least between these next 4 years, you know, there is going to be something big happening.
yeah. If it doesn't come next year, I believe it's going to be soon.
Yeah. So Nick's has just asked, what do you both think about the new movie Disclosure Day coming out this month? So yeah, we just covered that basically. That's all right. But look, mate, before we finish up, is there anything else you want to sort of add on there at all? You know, any message to everyone there before we go?
Again, my name is Harrison Viers Newberry, and you could follow me on Instagram. Watch out online for live shows as well. All of my books are available on Amazon. And I hope you will join me, as especially the last 3 books, The Imminent Shift, Rise of Human Perception, and Revelations, are right down the alley of everything we've been talking about tonight, only far more description. And
Sounds good. I've got the links there for people to go and check out your books there or purchase them from Amazon there so they can get a hold of them. But Harrison, thank you so much for joining me, mate. It's absolutely incredible and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom there and your journey into enlightenment. Like it's a, you know, an incredible journey that you've gone through. And as we were talking about before, you know, like, you know, you've gone through mental battles, through, you know, such a tragic event in your life there, and you've gone through it. You know, a lot of people don't. They take the easy way out, but you've you know, you've pushed through it there, and you've learned a lot throughout your years. And
no pain, no gain, Andrew.
That's right.
That's you know, humans are lazy basically, and it takes a fire to get us off the couch.
It does.
I admit to that, but it's the truth. And you know, the worst things that can happen to you, as it was said to me a long time ago, Harry, that's a great opportunity for growth. And at the time, I thought, yeah, you don't want to hear what I have to say in response to that. I was praying for no growth.
That's right.
But
no, it's incredible. It's incredible, mate. You've done well, and all respect to you, and where, you know, your life has taken you, so which is absolutely amazing. So, mate, thank you again so much for joining me. It's incredible, and yeah, look forward to chatting to you in the future sometime.
I look forward to it as well, Andrew. Thanks so much for having me. It's been an honor.
Thanks, mate. Very much appreciated. All right, mate. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye now.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, guys, for joining me. Absolutely wonderful having you here. Thank you so much. You know, getting the chat here and talking to Harrison there. Absolutely incredible lifetime journey here. Nick, thanks for joining me. I don't think I've seen you in the chat here before. I might have seen you maybe somewhere before if it's your first time, but thanks for joining in. Of course, always got Miss Shelley there and Jane there in the chats there joining me, which is also always awesome seeing you here. But don't forget, guys, you can support the channel there with getting some online merch there at our online store, which should hopefully be in the link there in the description there. Get yourself an awesome shirt like one of these ones here, which is basically the background on the little thing here behind me. But yeah, otherwise, don't forget to go and hit a like on this bad boy, share it out to your friends and family there. And if you have had an encounter with something strange and unknown, please reach out to me through Facebook page or email at encountersdownunder@outlook.com.au. Also, if you don't want to come and join me on the podcast here, you can email your story and I'll read it out, which I'll add it to the channel as well. So yeah, if you're not really comfortable with the camera there or talking in person there, I'll read out the story there for you for people to listen to. So yeah, be sure to go and send that through there. Also a big shout out to the band called Loser with their song called Skyward. The intro there is a warm up to the show there. They let me use their video there, which is absolutely awesome. Great little song there. And otherwise, thank you guys for joining me. And till next time, and have the best of times there, and all the best till next time. All right, catch you later. Hooroo, catch you later.